Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome this morning to this week's Healing Courageously episode of Healing the Wounded Child Within, Chapter 12 on Forgiveness, Part 2, actually. I hope you all are doing well this week. I know things have been a little bit hectic out in the world. It's a bit nerve wracking, from day to day. Mask, no mask, we're going to open up, we're going to close. So all we can do is keep our side of the street clean. I, like I've said before, my wife, myself, my family, we've chosen just to continue living our life and enjoying life as it is. Are we careful and safe? Yes, we are. We absolutely are. We choose to live the way we live, and we don't condemn other people for living the way they live. And so, in turn, I think that if everybody could just worry about themselves instead of what other people are doing, this world would be a much better place to begin with. So, but I just hope you're all doing well, you're all healthy, happy, and in love with your spouses, your families, so on and so forth. I don't know about anywhere else in America, but man, I tell you what, this weather out here in the desert is absolutely whacked out. It's gone from 100 degrees down to, I think it was 69 degrees this morning when we got up. So, um, but it's sunshiny, beautiful day out. We're alive, and life continues. Oh, it's your choice. How do you want to live today? Do you want to live in fear, or do you want to live with faith? It's all out of our control, anyways. There's nothing we can do about it. What we can do is maybe play, or not play, but vote. Make sure you vote. If you don't like what's happening, make sure you get out and vote. And don't be a sheeple. Whatever you do, don't be a sheeple. Stand up for what you believe. Stand up for our rights. Stand up for our Constitution. That's what I'm going to do. That's what my family's going to do. Was created one nation under God. If you ask me, when they started taking God out of schools, out of the capital, out of businesses, out of wherever, they just started removing God from everywhere they could. You wonder why this world is such a mess, and I guarantee it's because God's a gentleman. God's an absolute gentleman, and He's going to let man do what he wants to do. So He'll step in eventually. And again, like I say, I think this is going to be a big wake-up call for all of America. I really do. So um, we'll just continue on with our lives. So anyway, just a little bit on that. I don't like to get into that too deeply. So, but we're going to continue today because I know that this is going to be a topic of discussion for probably many years to come. It has been already. Forgiveness is a topic that people just really, for the most part, um, they just turn away from it. I heard the other day talking with what I do. There was a person, and person that's working with me. Somebody asked him, "Well, what are you doing with Randy?" And he says, "Well," he goes, "I'm working towards forgiveness. I'm working on trying to get on the other side of the unforgiveness to get into forgiveness." And this person said, "Well, screw forgiveness, man. There ain't no forgiveness. Only God forgives." And man, I just was like set back. I said, "What?" Obviously, there's a lot of people that are really mad about God, and especially abuse victims. And it just saddens my heart that, and this person says that they are an advocate for abuse survivors, and that scares me to death because abuse survivors are carrying around enough anger, pain, and hurt in their lives that they don't need anybody pouring fuel on their fire at all. But I understand unforgiveness. I understand unforgiveness uh, probably more than a lot of people because for 38 years I lived with unforgiveness. And unforgiveness just really has no place in a person's life other than the only place it has is it has a place to tear your heart apart, tear your life apart. your physical being apart, your emotional being apart, and your spiritual being apart. That's just fact. I mean, it's been proven scientifically um, that it's devastating on our health, on our physical health. So we really got to look at this seriously. Now, like I say, I understand why people don't forgive. I absolutely understand it, or why they have a hard time forgiving. I have understanding why people have a hard time with God, because I was one of them. I've been in those shoes, believe me, and that's a whole another discussion for another time. But the thing today is on the forgiveness. We must come to a place of forgiveness, and there's different levels of forgiveness. And I think we're going to talk about that next week. But there's different levels of forgiveness. Sometimes we can forgive a person on the spot. If Kathy, my wife, if she does something that upsets me, she knows she made a mistake, and she comes to me with a loving, kind, and honest heart, and she really wants to make things right. And she ran, I'm so sorry for that behavior. I know I'm still working on it. That's easy to forgive because I know she's working on things. But then there's these deep scars that a lot of us survivors of abuse have: sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, any kind of abuse. Okay, primary, I talk about the sexual because men don't want to talk about that. But that kind of harm, that kind of pain, those scars are deep within the psyche of the human being. And so it's a process, but we must get to a place of deep, true, heartfelt forgiveness. If you're a Christian or proclaimed Christian, and I'm going to use that word, the Bible says if you want to be forgiven, you must forgive. The Lord's Prayer: forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive us our trespasses. Okay, God, I want you to forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against me. It's pretty black and white right there. How are you forgiving those that have harmed you? Because that's the way you're going to be forgiven. Okay? So we're going to start off today with talking about what is unforgiveness. And it's actually it's a combination of delayed negative emotions toward a transgressor. For example, things like bitterness, anger, fear, hatred, hostility, and resentment. That's all forgiveness. And resentment, man, that's what leads to the bitterness and the anger. And that's what can lead a lot of people to relapse. They're holding on to those resentments, that pain. They feel like, what happened to me happened to you, man. You'd be pissed off too. You'd be drinking. You'd be doing this. Don't be talking to me about forgiveness. And I was one of those people for many years, and so I understand it. And those are the people I really, really like to work with, because if they're open-minded and willing, we can work through all that stuff. It's real simple. I mean, it just takes the willingness and open-mindedness. That's all it really takes. And especially, I'm going to go back to it, especially if you say you're a Christian or a proclaimed Christian. Either God is everything or God is nothing. And the Bible makes it very, very clear, as in the Lord's Prayer, that forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And in count, I think it was I think I said 121 times. I didn't review my notes from last week. That forgiveness is mentioned in the Bible. And the scripture doesn't say, well, you can partly forgive and I'll forgive you. Or, you can forgive this person, but not that person, and I'll forgive you. If you want to be forgiven by God, you have to forgive. It's real simple. It's pretty selfish to want something for yourself but not want the other person to have it. Okay? So it was like, as long as I kept my heels dug in and was unwilling to forgive my stepfather and my mother, man, I was full with, and I didn't think I was. I didn't see it, but I was filled with so much negativity, so much hate, so much rage, and so much anger. But deep inside, I knew I was this really gentle giant. And I knew that. But I couldn't manifest that because I was carrying around all this unforgiveness. And it was really hard because after I'd done all this intense work for, I think it was 3 years when I 2 to 3 years, after I'd done all that intense work that I'd done on myself, I didn't understand why I still felt the way I was feeling. All right, because I was so angry still. And I just couldn't understand why I was just so pissed off. And it was simply because I wasn't willing to forgive. So you might be thinking, well, how could my unforgiveness, or how could holding on to my unforgiveness be blocking me from happiness? I know that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. I've done all this work. How can unforgiveness towards somebody that did what they did to me be blocking me from my happiness? And I might have gone over some of this last week, and if I did, I'm sorry for being redundant, but it needs to be gone over anyways. So, I talked earlier that there's a physical effect, right? So how can it be blocking me from my happiness? Well, the physical effects of unforgiveness are similar to physical effects of stress. Okay, so you just got to think about when you're physically drained, are you really happy? And those physical effects, they include anxiety, they include decreased immune function, they include fatigue, headaches, intense negativity, irritability, muscle tension, out of control emotions, and stomach aches. And aside from all the physical symptoms of unforgiveness, it locks us in a mental prison for decades. So we've done all this work, but we haven't forgiven. And there's a lot of reasons right there why it keeps us from being happy. I mean, imagine being locked in that mental prison for decades, as I was. My abuse stopped when I was 18 and I moved out of the house, more like when I was 20. Because I had a lot of emotional and physical abuse still happening for the next couple of years, but it stopped when I was 20. And I continued to carry or abuse myself worse than I'd ever been abused by my stepfather and mother for 30 some years. It kept the rage and the pain that kept both Jack and my mother present in my mind. It was there all the time because I was always angry and pissed off at them. Why? I would over and over, and I'm working with a gentleman right now, and he does it quite often, but he's in the very beginning stages of his recovery. But over and over, I relive the sexual abuse and the beatings from my stepfather. And we're remembering how worthless I felt when my mother watched the beating. My mother watched the beating, or worse yet, a lot of times, she literally instigated the beatings. Literally instigated the beatings. So as we're reliving that over and over in our mind, it's just the same thing. We're playing it over, playing it over, playing it over and over and over and over. And it keeps it alive. Now, some people are fortunate enough to get help at a very young age, and they don't have to go through all this pain and misery, for long periods of time, which is grateful. We got some young couples we're working with, and thank God they're young. And I says, you guys got a big advantage in life because you're young enough to where we can work out all these things that you've been carrying around for, they're in the 20s or maybe early 30s. Where I was, 49, and you can have a pretty good life. Right? It didn't really matter how successful I became in the world. I just couldn't stop the internal voices from my past. There's a saying that I both love and hate. Love and hate. Don't let your past circumstances define you. Don't let your past circumstances define you. Now, as a recovered survivor of sexual abuse, I'm on board with this philosophy. But I've seen people doing harm, more harm than good, trying to help survivors with this kind of advice. Why it's true, we can't let our past define us because it's not who we are. Hey, Lauren, how are you? Good to see you this morning, sweetie. Um, while we can't let our past define who we are, it's hard not to when we're in early parts of our recovery because it's just like with almost every kind of abuse, there's emotional abuse that's involved, and it's like we feel worthless. Right? So we have these tapes that we feel like we're never going to amount to nothing. We can never make this person happy or that person happy. And so when we make mistakes in our life, it's just like the tape plays over and over. See, you'll never amount to nothing. Just like so and so said. It's like your stepfather said, your mother said, your father, your grandfather, your uncle, your cousin, your brother. So every time we make a mistake, we lose it. For us survivors that were stuck in the prison of our past, it's hard to comprehend that our past defined us. We don't understand that. And so even if you weren't abused, your past defines you. Your behaviors are learned behaviors from handed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And the way you respond to things. Okay? When you're not given healthy ways to respond, when you're not taught healthy things about yourself, that you're a kid or a teenager, you're growing up, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay, that's part of life, right? When you're not taught how to work through adversity as a child, teenager, young adult by responsible and reasonable parents or caregivers, you just do the best you can to survive on a daily basis. You do the best you can to survive through hard times, to work through adversity. And sometimes it's not the best way. Sometimes it's a very defensive way. So all this stuff builds up. And like I always tell everybody, look, you guys, you're not going around thinking about this stuff. It's not at a conscious level. It's at a subconscious level. I can remember working through this process with my therapist, and it's like, I don't think about this stuff. She goes, no, you don't. Because it's just there. It's ingrained in you. It's at a subconscious level. So you just, as we start this journey, we start becoming aware of all these patterns, these behavior patterns. Right? We start becoming aware of, why can't I forgive, or why should I forgive? And this is where it's really important to have a really strong and good mentor that's going to sit there and work with you and have the patience for you to work through all this stuff. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey through life. You know, our past is the reason we are who we are today. And we simply cannot just turn a switch in our brain and be different. And I hope you can understand that. We just can't automatically just, nope, I'm going to be different today. Again, if you hear me say it over and over and over again, it's ingrained in who we are. We've been doing this type of behavior for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, who knows how long. Okay? What I would tell you right now for myself, right? For myself, I'm glad that I'm grateful for everything that happened to me in my life. And I can tell you, people are going to look at me like, you're out of your mind, Randy. You're absolutely out of your mind, Pastor Randy. How can you be grateful for all that stuff that happened to you? Well, you can look around at the people that know me today, and they can probably answer that question for you. Because it's made me the grateful, loving, kind man that I am today, the loving, supportive husband, father. I don't have to answer that question. You just talk to people that know me, and they know I got my faults. That we all do. But if I wouldn't have learned all those life lessons, I wouldn't be the man I am today. Did I like them? No, absolutely not. Now, I couldn't have said that. I probably couldn't have said that 10 years ago. I definitely didn't say it 14 years ago. Right? But all this takes time. But so long as we are unforgiving, we stay stuck in the prison of our past. As long as we're unforgiving, we're going to stay stuck in the prison of our past. Right? And I've talked to people that have I think I've mentioned this one other time. A woman in one of my Bible college classes that she talked about she talked about how she had forgiven this person that had harmed her. We were just general conversations, right? And every time we meet, she would talk about the same person, and I could see the anger and the bitterness in her when she would talk, right? I just let her talk. I'm not the one that says she forgave me. Well, okay. But as time went on, and she kept on, we would talk, and I would see this, and I can remember one day we were talking, she goes, "You know what, Randy? Based on the way I feel and our conversations over the last month or so, I haven't forgiven this person." Hey, good morning, Linda. How are you? She goes, "I haven't forgiven this person." I'm okay. And she come to that conclusion herself. I didn't have to tell her. So a lot of people are saying, "Yeah, I forgave him," but their actions and the way they talk and their mannerisms doesn't say that they've forgiven him. And that's on them, not on me. So as long as we allow our perpetrators to steal our freedom, and as long as they're locked in our head, like my stepfather was and my mother was for those 30-some years, we struggle to become our authentic selves. And the last chapter, which we'll discuss next month, is on the authentic self. So I'll say it again, like I've always said. People don't seem to understand this, but forgiveness, I want you to understand this, forgiveness is the key to true freedom, wholeness, and happiness in one's life. Absolutely. Now, that being said, we're human beings. And I have my times where I'm upset about what happened to me. However, I'm upset about things that happened to me. I can't change them. My childhood was assassinated and taken from me, right? But I'm not upset at my perpetrators. I forgave them. And what happens is, and I know I've said it before, is that when I feel that feeling right away, I'm usually with Kathy in the car and I see something or whatever, and I'll tell her, "Hey, I'm angry right now." And we discuss it for a couple of minutes. She understands it. She knows where I'm coming from. And it's not him or her, it's the situation. And it's over with. Then I go about my day and I don't worry about it anymore. It's having that person in your life that you can, because we forgive them, because we've done all the good work, and we know beyond a shadow of a doubt we've forgiven somebody, doesn't mean that we're not still going to feel the pain from now on, or from time to time. So it's having that person in your life that you go, "Hey, I'm struggling right now. I know I forgave X, Y, and Z, but I'm being bothered by some stuff right now that happened." Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Let's get you through it. You've already done the hardest work, so you're okay. It's like Papa Brock said, that person hurt you and hurt you deeply. And like that meditation I had about 12 years ago, when God spoke to me, he says, "Randy, the scarring is deeper than you can ever imagine, and the pain and the damage is incomprehensible." And today I know exactly what he's talking about, because the scarring is deeper than a person will ever imagine, and the pain is incomprehensible to those that don't understand it. So let's go into what forgiveness is not. Okay. And for decades, myself, I was confused about what forgiveness really is and who it's for and what I had to do once I forgave someone. Okay? Now, and I know that, I think I started this thing off with that one lady that says, "There is no forgiveness." And this is an advocate for abuse survivors. And I'm going, "Oh my goodness gracious." Okay. So I know if I was confused, that there's a lot of people out there that are very confused about what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. All we know is that the Bible says, in many, 121 times, that in order to be forgiven, we must forgive. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Simple. It can't be no simpler than that. That being said, it's not easy. Okay. Once I began my recovery, and I was surrounded by some very healthy people, very loving, very kind mentors that understood me, um, I started to understand, and it became really clear what forgiveness is not. Okay. John Howerton, a pastor in Springfield, Tennessee, has stated my thoughts succinctly with my comments following in parentheses. So I did my research on this, and I looked everywhere. I was actually looking for, the biblical part of it, the pastoral part of it. I wanted stuff that was going to be, even though I wasn't 100% committed back into the church of Christianity, I was close to God, and I wanted good stuff. I wanted to make sure it was God-centered stuff. I'll say that. So number one, forgiveness is not approving or diminishing the abuse or sin. Okay? The sinfulness of abuse never changes. It was a sin. It was harm. It caused you harm. It was not right. It was wrong. So it's not diminishing the abuse or the sin. Forgiveness is not enabling the abuse or the sin. So you're not now. Forgiveness is not enabling. There's two incidents that happened in my life with a pastor and with a police officer when I was a teenager. The police officer, he was at the house, and I said this to him. I says, "Officer, you don't know what it's like living in this home." And his words to me were, "I don't care what it's like living in this home. Until you're 18, you do what they tell you." And the next night, I was almost beat to death. Our pastor of our church, we had a little powwow between him, my stepfather, and myself that my stepfather called extremely shaming to me. And basically what he said with my stepfather right there is, "Randy, I just don't want you to be worried about it. You're not going to be gay as part of growing up." What he did was co-sign what my stepfather was doing, because the abuse got worse after that. Okay? But see, there was no forgiveness in that. He was trying to figure that this pastor was trying to figure things out himself. So forgiveness is not enabling the abuse or the sin. It actually diffuses the power of the sin. Believe me, it will. It'll take it away. Number 3, forgiveness is not denying a wrongdoing. It can never be denied that you were abused and hurt. Never. Your truth is your truth, and nobody can ever take that from you. It doesn't matter. Okay? It was a wrongdoing. Forgiveness is not waiting for an apology. This is really, really important, because too many people, well, they need to apologize to me first. Or if I forgive them, they better apologize to me. It doesn't work that way. The Bible doesn't say forgive only when they give an apology to you. The Bible says to forgive. You forgive the abuser whether or not he or she ever apologizes. There's a lot that I can say about this number 4. It can cause a lot of damage to people if they were to approach I'll just use the word perpetrator. That covers a lot of different things. And he denied it. It's extremely devastating to somebody that's been perpetrated against in any way. When their perpetrator denies it, it can send them right down a dark rabbit hole of shame that they might not ever come out of. Forgiveness is not forgetting. You'll never forget. So that the words you need to forgive, forget, and move on. Forget needs to be taken out of that sentence period. It's the most damaging thing you can say to somebody. We must come to a place of forgiveness, and we must be able to learn how to move on. That I will say, but I'm not going to say it in a harsh, meaning way. It's going to be a very loving type of talk. Okay. Forgiveness is not ceasing to feel the pain. It's okay for it to hurt, but you just don't stay stuck in that pain. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, I feel hurt sometimes. but I don't stay there no more. I feel it. I let my wife know what I'm going through because she's the one that understands me the best. We talk about it for a minute or two, and then I move on. I'm not stuck in like I used to stay stuck in the pain. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. Sometimes you need to forgive on a regular basis. Like I said, there's easy ways, there's different types of forgiveness. And sometimes, it was like when my stepfather died. And I saw all the things on Facebook, right? And it made my stomach turn what they were saying, how wonderful the guy he was, and blah, 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 blah. And then after he died, those comments got even, they probably went 100-fold. But I had to tell myself, I've forgiven him. There's nothing, he has no power over me anymore. Let it go. Yeah, when I saw him, it made my stomach turn, absolutely. And I could have gone on Facebook, and one of my thought patterns was, well, why don't you go on Facebook and just rip them apart now with everybody? You got everybody's attention now, Randy. But I forgot. I forgave him. There was no reason for me to do that. And besides that, to all those people that were complimenting him, he was their hero. And I know people have a really hard time comprehending what I'm saying right now. They just don't get it. But the reality is that he was standing before God, and I would not want to be him. I would not want to be him. So we have to forgive sometimes. We have to remind ourselves, hey, you forgave that person. Remember, hurt people hurt people. And you were once a hurt person. You were once broken just like he was, or she was. Forgiveness is not neglecting justice. Okay, you can forgive and still pursue justice. Law of the land. I mean, if they've done something that's illegal and wrong, they're going to have to pay for it legally if it comes up. Okay. Say there's a lawsuit filed against them, or they're in prison or whatever. You forgive them, but from that point forward, it's God's grace, not your grace, that has to be bestowed upon them and what the justice system is going to do. Forgiveness is not trusting. You need to be exceedingly careful about whom you trust. Exceedingly careful about whom you trust. Your trust was broken in a way that it should have never been broken. But it was broken that way. It's like my therapist told me, and I did not like it when she said it. Randy, people are going to break your trust. They're going to lie to you. They're going to let you down. Right? They're going to betray you. That's what people do. Don't take it personally. You just don't take it personally, as hard as that is to do. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. You are not required to allow your abuser back in your life to have a relationship with him or her. Forgiveness takes one, you. Forgiveness is, I know this can be very conflicting, right? But forgiveness is for you. It's going to release you. Right? My sponsor says never ask anybody for forgiveness. Never. Make an amends to them. Tell them that, hey, I know that I did wrong in the past. I treated you improperly. I shouldn't. And I just want you to know that I'm changing. I'm working on changing my life, and so on and so forth. Because you can ask a person for forgiveness, and they say no, it's going to be devastating. Plus, you're asking that person to take action, not you. Your amends, your forgiveness is not based on them accepting your forgiveness. It can't be. And it puts them in a precarious spot. Maybe they don't want to forgive you, but they just feel obligated. So it's for you. And I know that's, again, that can create some controversy, but it works very well. True forgiveness requires self-examination and the willingness to be wrong. The willingness to be wrong. You don't want to you don't want to mistake sanctimonious false forgiveness for the real thing. But sometimes we're just wrong, open-minded and willing. Sometimes you got to look at your thoughts through a different pair of glasses. Not that what happened to you didn't happen to you. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes we have to look at where we're thinking through a different pair of glasses. You know, it's like the famous that one of the last things my therapist told me: ask yourself these questions: is it true, and is it absolutely true? Some things you know are true and absolutely true, and others can be an assumption based on what you know is true. All right? So we got to be willing to look at, to be wrong in some of our assumptions. It doesn't mean what happened to us didn't happen. It doesn't mean that it had any less effect on you. But it's just going to be a way of going, oh, yeah, I kind of see where maybe I went overboard on that thought. Yeah. Sanctimonious forgiveness appears when you seem to be forgiving another person, but are only actually establishing superiority. That is a common misunderstanding of the expression being the bigger person. Yeah, you're being the bigger person, but you're not gaining superiority. You're freeing yourself. You're freeing yourself. It's like, I think when I talk about two people having different opinions, right? Well, that's okay. You're allowed to have different opinions. And oftentimes I've been caught, or let me back up. Before I got in recovery, when I was talking to people and their opinions were different than mine, I either felt like real defensive or I felt like a piece of crap. I didn't know what I was talking about, therefore I'm not going to say nothing. My self-esteem went down, so on and so forth. And now it's like, I never looked at it that way before. I never thought about it in that manner. I'm going to give that some thought and I walk away. Or whatever I do, I walk away. But what happens in that scenario, the other person wins. The other person wins. And the reality is, you both win. Because maybe you learned something new you didn't know. But you walk away and that person doesn't even know you just won. See what I'm saying? We don't always have to be right. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? It only hurts you in the long run to pump up your ego by forgiving others because you are bigger than them. Understand this. You are not more than and you are not less than. And I don't care who you are in this world. The president, I don't care who. You are not more than or less than any other person in this world. They might have some letters and they might have a title that's bigger than yours, but that doesn't mean as a person they're better or less than you. We are all equal in God's eyes. So next week we're going to move on over to the different levels of forgiveness. There's a lot more to this. My book in chapter 12 covers a lot of this. And it's well worth the read, especially if you're struggling with forgiveness. And we just don't have time to go through everything I would like to have gone through today, because I like to try to keep these things down. I like to keep them in a half hour, but so next week we're going to move into different levels of forgiveness. But you've got the gist of it, what forgiveness isn't, right? And we will talk about what forgiveness is as well. Might be a little bit of that next week as well. So, be sure to join me next week so we can do, as we do, different degrees of forgiveness. And I got to look possibly what forgiveness is or how to forgive. There's actually, I'm going to talk about how we forgive. It's real simple, actually. So, hey, and remember, guys, my life coaching, I do marriage counseling. inner healing, abuse, addictions, all sorts of life coaching / counseling. Kathy and I do marriage counseling together. We are, I'm Simba certified saving your marriage before it starts, but people are taking it even when they're married. It's a phenomenal little program, not psychological. It actually talks about how you look at things in life. And so it compares the two of you. It's amazing. It's like 99.9% accurate. So if you're interested in any of my life coaching services in any way, shape, or form, or our marriage counseling, please check out changeyourlifestorynow.com, changeyourlifestorynow.com. And we'll get back to you with find out what you all want. Also, you can check out the Courageous Healers Now, our courageoushealers.org website, courageoushealers.org. If you're willing to donate, we can't keep doing this without you. And we need funds to do that. And I know things are tight right now. I know they're really tough right now, and I understand that. Look, even you can go to the website, you can click on the donate button. If it's a one-time donation or if it's a monthly contribution, you can set that up too. Even if it's $5 a month, $10 a month, we're not asking for a lot of, whatever you can afford, whatever God puts on your heart that you can help us out with, would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And every penny, every dime, every dollar goes right to the foundation. That's where it stays at. So that's the foundation. Remember, you get my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within, on Amazon. It's in paperback, Kindle, and Audible. And also my 30-day devotional to wholeness, 30-day devotional to wholeness, and the 7-day challenge workbook to healing the wounded child within. All available on Amazon. Look, we got our workshops coming up. Our next workshop, June 13th. Journey to You is a really powerful workshop. It's going to really get into why you are the way you are, how you got this way, get into some family dynamics. It'll really open your eyes and help you change in a more positive way. That's going to be on June 13th. If you go to the website, courageoushealers.org, go to the top, click on the workshop button, and it'll take you right to the page. It's a one-stop shop. Just click on the register here. You can register, you can pay, you can sign up, everything on one page. Now, with the coronavirus, right now it's on June 13th. We're leaving it that way for the time being. So, if you sign up prior to that and your money, there's a couple things we'll do. I'm not going to cancel or terminate the workshop. We might postpone it, but it will happen either on June 13th or whenever we're allowed to have gatherings. So if you happen to sign up, Jacqueline, it's probably for 18 and over. We're going to go we're going to go into some pretty intense stuff. So I can make exceptions to that. You'll just have to talk one-on-one, okay, Jacqueline? But it's really an eye opener. But anyways, if you sign up and you pay, and I'll either hold on to the money until we have the workshop, or I can give you a refund right on the spot, and you can re-sign up later if you want. Okay. So stay tuned for that. We'll get a flyer coming out pretty soon. But you go to my website, you can look at all all the workshops we're going to have for the rest of the year. We got Journey to You. We got Secrets and Silence, and then December 5th we have Forgiveness right before Christmas. So we look forward to having you all there. If you donate $60 or more to the foundation, I'll send you a free copy of my signed book and my devotional. Okay. I think that's all it for today. Another thing that Kathy and I are doing, and we're going to build a page on changeyourlifestorynow.com, is I've performed 6 or 7 weddings now. They've been in backyards. Only one of them has been in a church, and they've been really good. They've been real intimate. They've been really fun, and the couples have really enjoyed them. So we're going to build a page for that also coming up here shortly on changeyourlifestorynow.com. Okay. So remember this. Oh, one more thing. Join me Friday mornings from 9 to 12 on 100.1 FM, 100.1 FM Remnant Radio from 9 to 12 every Friday morning. And they actually have an app. That app is called Radio Remanente. Radio Remanente. Download the app. It's all in Spanish. But when you look at it, if you download the app, click on Radio Envío, and then do that the second time when it comes to the big screen, and then you're going to click on the button to the right, and that'll be the English version of what's going on. So you can download the app, and we also have our own website, www.radioremnant.org, radioremnant.org. So, and we're working on getting phone lines in there so that you can call in and ask questions. Okay? So if nobody tells you they love you today, remember that Randy does, but more importantly, God does. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I couldn't do this without all of you supporting me. I love you all, and have a marvelously blessed week. Goodbye.